Hello and welcome to the program. I am DEJI360. The massacre of 43 rice farmers in Zabamari community of Borno State, northeast Nigeria is one of the biggest attacks unleashed on civilians by the Boko Haram insurgents this year. Like other attacks, no one had envisaged this one as well, considering that the military has been recording some major successes in its fights against insurgency in recent times. In its explanation, the government said the farmers did not receive the necessary military clearance and approval needed to operate on the farms before the incident occurred. Now, the latest assault has brought again the recurring demand for the sacking of the security chiefs. This time, lawmakers in the House of Representatives even went as far as summoning the president to appear before them. And of course, the president has accepted that he would appear before the lawmakers to give an update on the security situation in the country. Now, if and when the president appears before the members of the House of Reps, it will be the very first time in the history of this country that the president would be appearing before parliamentarians now to brief them on security. Now, some northern governors, including that of Borno, Babagana Zulum, are also calling for the engagement of mercenaries to fight Boko Haram. It's not the first time Nigeria would be engaging mercenaries under President Goodluck Jonathan. Even though the government never came out openly to say it, Nigeria did engage mercenaries to fight the insurgents. But then we're still where we are. Now, is this what is required to win this long-standing security challenge? I mean, do we really need mercenaries to fight, to be able to win this Boko Haram insurgency? It's a very big question, and it's one that everybody wants an answer to. And if you ask me, it's one that I'm actually really worried about. But joining me now to discuss this and more, I have retired Colonel Hassan Stan Labo, who, of course, is a retired military officer and a security consultant. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you, Deji.
First off, let's start with the issue of engaging mercenaries to fight the Boko Haram insurgency. For me, it's quite surprising that we're even contemplating it. Nigeria is supposed to have probably one of the strongest armies in Africa as a whole. And we're talking about engaging mercenaries to fight an insurgency. Is that something that you think we should do?
Well, thank you, Deji. Ordinarily, I would say out of my sense of pride as a Nigerian, as a soldier, and then, of course, the patriotic zeal too, I would not want to subscribe to the idea of mercenaries. But we seem to be in a desperate situation. Desperate in that we want to get out of this mess as quickly as we can.
But there's no there's no quick way out, whether we like it or not.
We are coming there. We're coming there. We want to see how much we can do to get out of this mess as much as we can. But then the bad thing with bringing in mercenaries is often that, look, they have this tendency of going outside their briefs eventually.
And that is for sure.
And when they go outside their brief, in most cases, you are incapacitated to be able to call them to order. Because in most cases, not in most cases, mercenaries are merchants.
Obviously.
They are out there fighting for their money. And when they see other opportunities to make more, they move ahead. So at times to stop them becomes a problem, and so on. And any country that is worth its salt, frankly speaking, would not want to subscribe to the idea of mercenaries. Because the first big question you ask yourself is that, are we saying as a nation we are incapable of addressing this? After all, the mercenaries you are bringing in, what is their strength?
Let me ask you this, sir. Do you think that the military of this country has actually brought its might, its absolute might to bear in our fight against insurgency?
No.
Because it's only when I can see that is when I would begin to think there's probably no way out. So would you say we've brought our entire military might to bear on this?
I would say no. And the no is informed by the extraneous factors that have come into play, ranging from corruption and what have you. I am talking from, from a perspective of experience, having fought with the Nigerian army in Liberia, having fought with the Nigerian army in Sierra Leone, having served with the Nigerian army in Sudan, where I led troops to, having fought with the Nigerian army in the Bakassi, and so on. I know the stuff we are made of. I have not seen that stuff here. I am just seeing merchants in the battlefield. Frankly speaking, we have counted 10 years ongoing with Boko Haram. With the present momentum and with the way things are going, we shall count 20 and 30 years if it does not outlive some of us.
Well, and that's quite instructive because the head of the Nigerian army now, that's the chief of army staff, did say the other day that, look, this insurgency may be with us for the next 20 years. And the truth is that we've seen this in other places. And you look at the kind of insurgency we're fighting now, obviously different from some of the wars that you have mentioned that you engaged in, even different from the Nigerian Civil War.
I agree with you.
This is asymmetric warfare, and they say it's really difficult to fight. But isn't it even a disgrace that for a country as big as Nigeria, with the kind of military that we have, that we would even be contemplating the idea of engaging mercenaries to fight for us? I mean, what would that say of the country? What would it say of the military of this country?
We have not deployed the best of our abilities into this war.
Exactly.
And that is because we have been distracted from what should be the focus, be it in terms of training, be it in terms of operational delivery, be it in terms of logistics supplies, and so on. The bulk of us who are going in or who have gone in with this typical tendency for the Nigerian to allow his corrupt person to play at everything. And it's not just with the military. If you ask me, I will tell you clearly that maybe the military boys are looking at the politicians who are also looting, because the looting is ongoing, unless we want to deceive ourselves. Oh, you are looting, then I should go and die for you? Then I also loot. The point is that the entire nation needs a national reorientation. And that is what is affecting the military and by extension, this ongoing war. Simple. We thought this administration would fight corruption. Fine, they are doing their best, but their best is not good enough because even under the administration, we see more stealing going on. So, you will be stealing while I'm killing myself? Period.
And it must be surprising to a lot of Nigerians because when President Buhari came to power in 2015, everyone thought he was going to bring this under control. Being a retired military general.
Some of us stuck out our neck.
Yeah, being a retired military general, but you know, it's proving to be a very difficult battle. But let me ask you, now the lawmakers say they want him to appear, I mean the president now, to appear before them, to address them on the security situation in the country. What's your take on that?
They are the representative of the people. If they want him to come answer some few questions, okay. But like I keep saying, the House of the National Assembly is part of the oversighting machinery for the ongoing situation in the Northeast. Okay, you agree with me? They too have failed in their own responsibilities. Because when we talk about the corruption we're talking about, it rubs off also too on them. Because now what we have come to understand is that, okay, you want ABC, we'll give you ABC. But eventually we know C is coming back to us. And so on. The point is that there isn't enough oversighting, or even where there is, it is not tailored where it should go into. Leakages are not being blocked, either from the releasing, first of all, from the authorizing point, which is the presidency, down to those who facilitate the authorization, which now has to do with the National Assembly, the relevant ministries, finance, and so on, to the to those who are the receiving end, and then the end users. At each of these points, there are leakages that ought to be blocked, which have not been blocked. Anyway, if you ask me whose duty it is to block it, I will tell you that it starts more with the National Assembly. We're not seeing that.
That's quite true. Now, we also saw in the Senate, but just before we talk about the Senate, do you think it would be a very good idea for the president to stand before the 360 members of the House of Representatives openly and discuss security matters?
No, there is nothing wrong in it. They could make it a, what do they call this?
They call it an executive session.
Executive session. They could make it an executive session.
Do you also think it's a pretty good idea to discuss this before the entire members of the House of Representatives?
Well,
instead of a select committee, for instance.
Let us.
Do you think
working
every
on an
member,
assumption that they will all be patriotic enough to act as though they have been vetted?
And the reason I'm asking you this is because, look, this is not casting aspersion now at members of the House.
I know where you're headed for, yeah.
But of course, there are fears that you never can rule out that possibility that there just might be persons
among them, sellouts
who might, who might be sympathetic to Boko Haram. It's something
a few of them have even been pointed out.
It's something
names have been
you
mentioned.
can't rule out.
Yes,
I mean names have been mentioned in the
names
past.
have been mentioned
even
in
though
the past.
they've denied it.
Even though they've denied it.
But it's concerning that even names would be mentioned in the first place. So for me, it's a worry. Is that something? Is that something, do you think it's the right thing? Or maybe probably the president should be addressing the leadership of the House, or probably a select committee, the Committee on Defense or something? I don't know.
DG, there seems to be a high deficit of appropriate actions to be taken in addressing the situation.
And what amount of information would you be expecting the president, for instance, to release?
In the first place.
In the first place, before such a gathering?
Thank you. Because frankly speaking, I don't think, well, somebody will say he's got so much information on his table and so on, but getting the information on your table is one thing. Getting yourself soaked into that information and being able to actually discuss them, all right, is another, all right? Bringing in the president, to me, is more of symbolic action than the real thing we could have actually expected. Because to me, maybe I would have said, get the service chiefs, get the NSA, and let them sit down. If it means with the House, okay. If it means with a select committee or the appropriate committee, that's the Defense or Army, Air Force, Navy committee, and so let them sit down and say, look, enough is enough. What else do you want that we have not given you?
Let's just take a
and so on.
Let's take a short break now. We'll be right back to discuss the service chiefs that you just mentioned. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. On DEJI360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country?
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly. God forbid that I go to join that
DEJI360, providing clarity to issues. All right, welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching DEJI360 and we're discussing Nigeria's fight against the Boko Haram insurgency. And I have retired Colonel Hassan Stanlabo here with us. He's a retired military officer and a security consultant. Colonel, we were talking about the service chiefs now.
Yes, yes.
We saw very strong, very strong reactions now coming from the Senate. And to be candid, for the first time, we saw people, senators who are supposedly very close to the president, who are members of the ruling party, come out very strongly. I mean, you take a listen to the former governor of Borno State. If I can get that soundtrack, I would ask my producer to play that. You listen to what the former governor of Borno State, Kashim Shettima, said. Yep. Quite strong, if you ask me. We also heard from other senators, including Alin Dume. These are senators of the APC. All of them quite emphatic and unanimous, calling for the removal of the service chiefs. But let's just take a listen now to what some of the senators said at at that plenary session. Take a listen.
The Senate shall further observe that whatever it is that the security chiefs are doing presently is not working, or at least not enough. And if the President insists that the security chiefs are doing their work well, then the logical implication of such assumption is that the President, as the constitutional commander-in-chief of the country, has failed in his most rudimentary assignment of securing this nation.
Defense has over 800 billion. And more than 500 billion plus 100 billion for Operation Lafia Dole is for operational purpose. And that makes me to agree with my distinguished colleagues that there is the need to look into this. You pay people and they don't have the arms, they don't have the ammunition. I can tell you authoritatively that up to now, people in the war front are sharing ammunition.
There's no question at all that those senators actually spoke out of frustration.
Yeah.
That's the very first time we would hear Kashim Shettima speak the way he did.
Yes.
What's your take on that, this issue of the service chiefs?
For quite some while now, I've always argued that, look, they've got to go. To me, they have actually served their usefulness. The first 1, 2, 3 years of their tenure saw the best of them. They brought us out of what I'll call the woods. Okay? However, now, as far as I'm concerned, operational fatigue has set in. They have overstayed.
Operational fatigue on the part of who? The service chiefs?
The service chiefs, yes.
Or the men
I'm talking about the service chiefs. For the men in the battlefield, all you need is regular rotation. But we are not able to achieve that because we have a manpower problem on ground.
So how are the service chiefs now responsible for that?
For the manpower issues?
Yeah, because we're supposed we're supposed to engage more soldiers.
Yes, of course. Of course. They are responsible for that because I expected them to be able to have a sense of projection and be able to know that, look, we are into a war. There is a duration of period at which you can keep men continually. Then you work out your rotation plan. When you don't have enough strength to be able to meet up with your rotation plan, you know that what do? You begin to address what I want to call your critical successful factors. And among these critical successful factors which are enablers in addressing this problem, it has to do with you now recruiting more men. They are not embarking on serious recruitments. Not that recruitments are not ongoing, but the number of men being recruited.
But don't you think it goes beyond? It actually goes beyond Ben, because it also would depend on what the federal government is able or allows you to take. I mean, they can't on their own go on and recruit 1 million soldiers. Who pays them? And so it's also dependent on what the federal government allows you. But let me ask you something, sir. There's something I want to ask you, because I hear people say that, yes, it's true, these service chiefs have actually overstayed. We've never had it like this before, where service chiefs stayed for this long. But people say, you know, because they have stayed for this long, younger officers are itching to take over from them. And they can't, these younger officers, because these people have stayed for too long, these younger officers can't see a path to growth. So that there's a likelihood that these younger officers have just decided to sit down and do nothing. Now, if that is the case, isn't that worrying? Because it appears maybe because, I'm just thinking, and I want you to correct me, that maybe because this man has been there for too long and he doesn't want to leave the seat for me to come in, then I just make the whole place ungovernable for him, and I, you know, sabotage and all of that.
You are partly correct, because the point is that if they are not giving way for others to grow into such positions, after a point, frustration sets in. And when frustration sets in, at times, the best way of expressing your frustration is to remain passive.
And it's a human factor.
Yes, I know what I'm talking about. It's to remain passive. You are neither saying or You are just there. Yes.
And that is
so that nobody quotes you. You remain passive. That's one. Two, haven't been there for too long, and there are lots of fantastic ideas that people have which they want to bring in. for one reason or the other, I tell you a secret. In the military, you don't display too much brilliance that makes your superior officer uncomfortable. There is a level to which you display some brilliance, and the man begins to feel, these are the ones that are itching to take over. Eh? So you bury, by virtue of your remaining there, you bury a lot of fantastic ideas. So when you hear some of us say, let them give way for fresh ideas, brains and hands to emerge, we know what we are talking about. We know what we are talking about because we know the way the military works.
But the president should know better because he's a retired military
general. That is the most disturbing issue.
So maybe the president sees what some of you don't see.
When it was, who was the former president? This fine gentleman.
Goodluck Jonathan.
When it was His Excellency Goodluck Jonathan, I was always of the opinion that, you see, he's not a soldier. So look, the earlier he leaves, the better, and let a soldier take over that position and know what to do. So that before you say 1, 2, he's able to help you complete it 3.
Well, this is a retired soldier.
So here we are.
He's a retired soldier.
Yes, but I mean,
yeah, it's really worrying, and the security situation in the country as a whole is really quite disturbing. We just wait and see what the president would say when he appears before the lawmakers next week. But finally, before I let you go, sir, there's something very critical that I want you to react to, and I think Senator Ndume partly alluded to it. The issue of funding. Do you think, as a country, really, that we're spending enough on our military?
No, we're not spending enough. But if you ask me whether should they still pushing funds, I will say wait until we reorganize. Why? Because I see so much corruption. The more fund you push in, it will disappear. We are yet to take certain vital steps in reorganizing the way we want to fight that war. We are yet to take certain vital steps in clearing some individuals away and allowing people who really want to express themselves and prove their worth to come on board. Then we'll begin to talk of maybe additional funding. If you ask me now whether we should push in additional funding into the military, I'll tell you hold it. Unless if you also have a part to play in the ongoing looting that is going on. Because like it is today, all parties are benefiting. Boko Haram has become what we call the Boko Haram economy. Boko Haram has become a cash cow where everybody now is benefiting from. All stakeholders. If you ask me who are the stakeholders, I will tell you that those who should be carrying out roles in the field and those who should be oversighting those carrying out roles in the field. To further break them down, it starts from the presidency. I didn't say president. I say presidency, down to the National Assembly, to the respective ministries that have business there, right down to the troops, that is the military arm now fighting there, right down to NGOs who are using the terrible situation in the Northeast to collect more money from their donors. All parties involved in the Northeast are smiling to the bank while you and I are here speaking grammar and praying to us, when will this war be over? But we people also are on their knees saying thank you God for the harvest.
But we also cannot deny the fact that some of them are doing genuine work.
Of course. Forget that we are trying to generalize. There are genuine hands in there. But a situation where the genuine hands are just very few, and so whatever they do does not really make much impact because the bulk of the team are after seeing how they can make some harvest out of it.
It's a problem.
It's unfortunate.
Colonel Hassan Stanlabo, thank you very much for coming on the program and for sharing your thoughts with us. Well, we'll take a short break now and we'll be right back. On DEJI360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment. so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dullards that call themselves governors in this country.
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that ballot.
DEJI360, providing clarity to issues.